Well, they say that entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. Have you heard that message before? I have. And also, what I'm hearing as well, the higher you climb, the more lonely it gets. Well, I have to say that's not only is not true, but also it might be quite a dangerous mindset to have. It might be quite a restricting mindset to have. And it might be the kind of mindset that keeps you in the grind without achieving the results that you want. And welcome to the new episode on my podcast. I'm Edita, and this is From Grind to Grace. And this is the show for the alternative entrepreneur, the entrepreneur who is ready to flip the script, challenge the norm, and choose freedom first. When freedom is not a destination, when freedom is the path, because when you stop grinding for freedom, success just tags along for the ride, and that is the goal and that is the mission. Let's change the standard in this industry, the norm for yourself, for your children, and for humanity. And the big question I ask on this podcast, and the big thing that I talk about with my guests is how do you do it? And obviously, there are so many things that can be done for you to step into that place of freedom and run your business to the scale, to the wild growth and size from that place. And one of those things is very overlooked, I have to be honest. It happened for me for a while at the start. And what I'm talking about is connections. And I know, we are told create relationships. Relationships is everything. However, I don't know what happens in people's heads, but it takes a while for that thing to really like click. And I have somebody special on my podcast today. Very welcome, Lorna. Uh, and I am so glad to have you here because this is gonna be such a fun conversation. We already chatted a little bit. So, welcome.
Yeah.
Delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Edita. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show. I'm super excited to be here with you and your audience and, want to have this conversation about connection. It's so real. It's so present to me because, just this morning, a bunch of stuff was happening and it's all related. So, I don't know if the conversation is going to go there, but I will share some of the stories because here's the thing. When it comes to connection, it starts with the person, right? It starts with you, right? So as long as you're connected to yourself, um, you can
Mm,
create connections in a way that supports your business, to help you thrive, to help you grow on a whole nother level, and
mm,
without being that lone wolf, in your business as an
mm.
entrepreneur, as you shared earlier. So super excited to have
Yeah,
the conversation.
yeah, it's a it's one of those mysteries for me personally. I don't know. Some people maybe they start with connections and relationships. I thought I was doing that too, but all I was doing was growing my audience one by one, connecting with my potential clients
Yeah,
mostly. And it was not it I it was some sort of a blind spot
yeah.
for quite a while, right? So how do you understand creating connections?
So let me first say, same here, right? And in some ways, even though it's been years, listen, I'm in real estate and I've been connecting for 24 years, right? but I didn't call it connection because this is just who I be, right?
Mhm.
And so in the coaching space, we're told to, build your audience, connect with your audience, nurture them, do all the things, and we're all doing that as a business, right? But there's a different level that can speed up the process, right? And it's connecting. And like I said, it's so present for me this morning because as I was reading, and I'm a scripture girl. Whatever anybody wants to believe, that's fine with them. I was reading scripture this morning. I opened it up, and the first thing that came was it Luke? I think it was in Luke where Jesus was talking about his inner circle. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I started I started reading it and looking at the criteria for his inner circle that he had on there. And it's the same way in the business of what we do, right? Is finding the inner circle that you can have this deep connection with that will support you, you support them, you mastermind with them, you do all the things. And I think that when I started in this coaching space, that was a missing piece for me, right? And still, finding the right people to have in your inner circle can become a challenge. So that's why you got to get really super clear on who you are and what you need and how you add value to people so that you can create that inner circle that makes sense and is a win-win. Does that make sense? I know I just did a
Yeah,
high
yeah.
level conversation on it, but that's pretty much it. You got to find the right people. You got to find your inner circle. But before you can find your inner circle, you got to know who you be and how you show up in the world so that you're not giving up yourself for the relationship, right? It's kind of like being in a marriage. You can't be giving up yourself to be in a marriage. That doesn't work. Ends up in divorce. Been there, done that. Doesn't work.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that because okay, so first, people don't realize how important creating connections is, and all they
Mhm.
do create an audience, believing that's how you create connections. Then, second, then when they finally realize something clicks, then they start creating connections with anyone. I found that is not the right way to do either because you end up with all these. Well, I guess any good connection can lead to something at some point, right? And there is no there's not always a sort of like
Straight line.
immediate return,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think it's still very important to be selective as well and see how and with whom you connect.
Girl, let me tell you. So true. Again, which is why I say you got to know who you are, right? And your values,
Mhm.
right? Because that is super important. Excuse me. When you're looking to find these connections, you literally get to have like a checklist in your head when you're having the conversations to create those connections, right? And really listen to the person so that you can hear who they are. Because you can listen well for people if you're really paying attention, if you're really conscious, you can listen for people. And listen to your instincts as well. Don't leave those out either. I know this may sound esoteric, but it's not. It's actually practical.
Mhm.
Um, and this is how I do it. You may do it a different way, Edita, but this is how I do it. I gotta really listen to what people are saying. And I also track how they show up in the world, right? And sometimes, don't get me wrong, I'm human. I get it wrong, right? I'll give somebody the benefit of the doubt, and then they show me their true colors by how they act, right? I cannot tell you how many people, when I figured this out, how many people I reached out to thought listen, so this is why I'm telling you it's so important to know who you are. Thought I made the connection, thought we had a good thing going, and then they didn't show up.
Mm.
That's feedback, right? That's feedback from me because people are going to be who they're going to be. But what was for me what was in me that I wanted to partner up with that person, or that I thought that person was the right person to partner up with, right? Because you cannot know until you're in it, and that's why you got to build the relationship. You got to date people. You got to date people. Date people. I'm gonna say it one more time. Date people.
Yes, yes, so that alignment is super important, knowing why you are doing it, I guess. But
Mhm.
also, and have you found that like when it clicks for you in some way that, oh, okay, yeah, relationships, there's this saying, success is one relationship away, or, something like that. Then what I find a lot of people are connecting with some gains in mind, like
Oh, you mean
gains
like
for
what
personal gains.
for
Oh,
them? What's in it for
what can
them?
I gain from
Yeah,
this relationship?
yeah, yeah,
How can this be useful for me
yeah.
personally? Right? So have you seen that?
Oh, all the time. It's what I call taker energy. Just this morning, I told you this morning was going to come up on this conversation. Just this morning, I was on a call with a lady, and we're just connecting. It was our second call because I met her in a networking group, a small networking group, which is it was so good because um, I should introduce you to her too. I met a lady at in San Diego one on one personally. Spent 3 days with her, so I dated her for 3 days. So then after dating her for 3 days, then I went on her networking Zoom call because she's actually from the UK, and she introduced me to her community. So we're still dating, right? So I was on one of the connection calls today with somebody from that group, and we were talking, and I brought it up. I said, because I was giving her a referral to help her to grow her business. And when I gave her the referral, I told her she could use my name, but I gave her a specific strategy about how to go in, right? Because if you go in, most people I see they go in for the take, they don't go in with the give. So I specifically said to her, go into the community, give into the community, and then you can make your ask, right? So the way I see it happening most times is the other way around. Most people go in, like you said, to take versus give. Yes, you get to it has to be both ways, but what if you give first before you take, right? So that's how I would recommend anybody to start dating. Give value, right? Go in
And
by
then, okay, yeah. And then, so the next question then is, and I'm sure the one listening is probably thinking, okay, so what can I give? What can I offer?
well, first you got to be present. That's a gift in itself. You got to be present to the conversation you're in so that you can hear what if they're not telling you what they need, you can hear what they need, right? And I gotta tell you, just simply ask, hey, what do you need? What's your biggest challenge? Those are some simple questions that you can ask in a connection conversation, even for the first time, that you can hear people say, hey, well, I need this, I need this. And then you can say, well, I don't have any of those resources for you, but I might have this or I might have that, or, I'll keep it in mind for, I'll keep you in mind and make a note so that you're your word. Make a note and stay in contact with the person. Again, it's a date,
Hmm.
right? So that's what I would do. I would ask questions so I could hear what their needs are, hear what their deepest desires are, and see how I could support that. Listen. ugh, I'm gonna say listen again, but
Go
listen.
ahead.
Most people don't listen.
I know. Or
Most people don't listen,
they
so that's why
think
you
they
can't
are,
hear.
right?
Huh? What?
They think they are.
Exactly. Exactly. But if you're not listening, you can't hear because especially if you're going into the conversation with a taker energy, right? With what's in it for me? What can I get from this person? Then you're not going to hear what they need, right? Because you're only listening for what you want. But if you're listening for the person, your turn will come where they'll get to listen for you, and they maybe listen as they're sharing their thing. It may actually come out because it may be a mutual, and that's how the collaboration starts, right? Because as you're listening for how you can support them, right? Then you hear, oh, we could do this. Maybe we could do this together. And now, as you keep dating, right? Now you put on the engagement ring, right? Now you're engaged. Now you're in conversation. Now you're seeing possibility, right? And then you can get married, do business together.
Yeah, that's so true. And also the way I like thinking about it. Sometimes maybe I lack ideas. Okay, so what can I give, from that point, like, as a two-way kind of street.
Mhm.
Then I start thinking, okay, yeah, how would our audiences combined benefit from our collaboration together? How can we make this expansive and useful for everyone involved? Because it's not just, so if we are to create something together, it's probably for our audiences,
Right.
right? So,
Mhm.
so that's the other way I like thinking about it. But it didn't come to me straight away. It took a while for the thing to click.
I get it. And even in that, right? So even just what you said about how to leverage each other's audience, that's in the conversation as you're listening in, like you and I are talking now, as I'm listening to you as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, okay, how can we, because we already dated, right? We dated one time. This is our second date. Now, how can we talk about, working together with each other's audiences? What products do you have? All the things. It's the same process, right? But it's a process, is what I'm trying to say. So you go in, most people go in the first date and they're like, oh, da, da, da. No, listen, if it comes up, that's great. If the connection is, listen, you also have one night stands, right?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have one night stands. Uh, where the energy is so connected, it's so aligned that
Yeah.
it's undeniable, right? And you just go in, you take the opportunity, and you go in, right? Um, and that's a way to do it too. And it sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not dissuading any of these conversations. There are different ways to skin a cat, right? I'm just saying that in our business, we get to start listening to each other more so that we can support each other on a higher level so that we can grow faster. Because growing alone, like you said earlier, is not the game. Growing together is the game. That's how you expand faster. That's how
Yeah.
Walmart does it. That's how Elon Musk does it. That's
Yes.
how they all do it. That's how they all do it.
You
Is
know,
collaboration.
I remembered something as I was listening to you, right? I think part of the problem here and people avoiding creating relationships that way is the scarcity mindset.
Absolutely.
Like,
And
oh,
it,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna give away all my ideas
that
right?
part. Yeah. Or, oh, I worked this hard to build my list. I hear people say that out of their mouths all the time. I didn't do any this year. Did I do one? No, I haven't done a summit this year for the past 4 years before 2025. I was doing online summits. And one of the things that I've always heard, especially from the big players, is, you know, I built my list over, these last 10, 20 years. I'm not giving you access to my list. Big players.
Without realizing that they can double their lists in no time.
But and it's not only that, right? It's the people.
Yeah.
Here's what I know. Here's what I know. And I don't have a list of 100,000 people, but this is what I know. I know that if I had a list of 100,000 people, I can't serve them all. It's not possible. I'm gonna tell you why. Because we are made up. We have different ways of hearing. We have different ways of learning. We have different ways of understanding. I can hear you, you. may not be able to hear my message, you may be able to hear somebody else's tone with the same message and get it. I cannot serve, I would never think that I could serve
Mm,
100,000 people. I don't even think I could serve 10,000.
mm,
And it's a law of numbers too, right? If you look at it, if you have, and you guys do this all the time, right? 10,000 people, right? How many of those people are actually going to do business with you? Let's say 10%.
mm.
So I can serve 100 people out of that 10,000 people, probably more than likely, right?
Yeah.
What happens to the 9,900 people left? They're either not interested. Why? Because they can't hear you, or because you don't have the message they're looking for. You get what I'm saying? So that's why it's so important for collaboration. Because if that person still gets to be served, they're looking for something, or they wouldn't be on my list, right? But maybe they just can't. I don't know. My way of being doesn't work with them. My personality doesn't jive with them. But you come along with your beautiful spirit, Edita, and you're in my audience. You probably have the same message. You just say it a different way, and they get
Mhm.
it, right?
Yeah, oh my God. Oh my God, that's so cool because you touched on something very important and something that I talk about from every now and then, the volume. The volume. Everybody's chasing volume. You hear this from all sorts of gurus. Build the list, like the bigger the list, the better, the more exposure on social or whatever, the better, be everywhere, be omnipresent, da da da. And I like building a list as part of my craft. I'm a marketer, salesperson, whatever. For the last while, I don't really care. And that was like a shock for me. And you know
Mm,
why? Because I've rooted into something that is universally true. And so creating connections, surrounding myself with the right people, being in the rooms, even knowing the mindset itself, relationship driven mindset itself, gives me that sense of peace
mhm,
and freedom. I'm not alone. And if something happens, I have these people around me. I can
mm,
reach out, I can talk to them, Also, like you mentioned, right? Are you just building a list for the sake of numbers, or are you building a list with a purpose
mhm,
and mission? And are you connecting with people over a mission? Like for me, this podcast, so easy to reach out. Like, do you even have a mission? For me, it's very easy to reach out to people with this podcast, to get people
mhm.
on this podcast because I have a mission. I'm on a freaking mission and I'm doing it because I love it. And it's
Yes.
important,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're doing this because, these conversations, especially people who are coming up or who have been, working on the business for a while, they get to hear this. They get to hear this and know that they're not alone, number one. Number two, to know that it's possible to get this business off the ground without grinding yourself to death, without burnout, without, feeling like it's never going to happen. It's going to happen because you're here to serve. If you're in purpose and on purpose, it's going to
mhm.
happen. You just get to get the right information, you know?
Imagine if you start creating relationships this way on day one, not
Yes.
on year
Year
five, but on
five.
day one. That's where you start.
Oh my gosh. I'm laughing because it's so real. So real. So real. Yeah.
How many more
Yeah.
people
And
would have a breakthrough, including myself, much, much earlier and in
yeah, yeah.
a expansive way?
Yeah, yeah. You get the message out faster, right? Imagine what would happen if that happened. Seriously, Edita, imagine what would happen to shift consciousness because we're all on the same purpose, you realize that, right? We're
Yeah.
all on the same purpose. So imagine if if we can collapse time for people with this conversation,
Mm,
right?
that's the
That's the
goal.
game,
Oh my God, that's the goal.
right?
Yeah.
And the people who are holding on to the conversation, I'm not judging you. You get to, everybody has to go through a stage in their business and their life, right? But I see this conversation is in service, right? So people can get it and short track the timeline and reach more
So,
people faster.
yeah. Do you have a process for dating connections?
Well, I pretty much kind of gave it to you in in my dating process. You go to the party, you meet a handsome young man. You say, "Hey, how you doing? Want to have a conversation? You want to have coffee? We go have coffee, right? You listen deeply, you stay connected, you go, in service, and you see what's possible, and whatever is possible, you have the conversation. Maybe you have a second date before you jump into bed, with the collaboration, right? And you set some standards in that, right?
Mhm.
And then you move into go to the church, get the pastor, put the ring on. Now you're in. Now it doesn't end there, right? Because you got to nurture the relationship, right?
Yeah.
You got to nurture the relationship, whatever that looks like. Nurturing can look like different things to different people. Nurturing could look like, hey, do we connect once a month, once a year, once a quarter, whatever,
Mhm.
right? Are we going for dinner, to
And
discuss what
do
we're,
you go to actual physical events with the
oh
goal
yeah,
to meet? Yeah.
hmm absolutely. So when you see me in a room anywhere in the world, it's intentional. It's intentional. I'm
Mm.
always whichever room I'm in, I'm in there with intention.
Very cool. So how do you choose the rooms to be in?
Well, the people I know who is going to be there. That's number one. I know the people who are going to be there, and most of the rooms I go in, especially nowadays, I'm invited into the room. I
Mm-hmm.
may not know the people per se who are running the event, but I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Mm-hmm.
They always say they always say you're one connection away from changing your life, right? So you got to be intentional about the room you get in, the people you surround yourself with, so that you can get invited into these rooms. I remember, I think it was year before last, a friend of mine invited me to Chicago to be in a mastermind with her, and I'm sitting here thinking, who's gonna be in the room? She's like, Russell Brunson. I'm like, what?
Right.
When? I said, what first? Then I said, when? Um,
Mhm.
and Russell, uh, Don Green was there because
Yeah.
he's her mentor. And a whole bunch of people were in that room. And when she asked me and told me who was going to be there, I was like, it's a no-brainer for me,
Right.
right?
Of course.
I
And
learned so much. And honestly, that was a room where I was not connected to everybody in the room. It was a small group, but I wasn't connected to everybody in the room. I was connected to maybe 50% of them. And I
mhm.
still reach out to them even now. We haven't done anything
Did you
together,
ask
but I
for
still reach out to them.
introductions? Did you ask for introductions, or do you normally ask for introductions?
What do you mean? When I'm
Like I
in the
mean,
room?
like if you are in the room with somebody you know and they know the other person who you don't know but you want to connect with, do you ask them to introduce?
Girl, see, I think different than most people. I just go up and introduce myself.
I
I'm
see.
not asking nobody to introduce me to anything. No,
Because
I
you're already
introduce
in the room.
myself.
Because you
I'm in the
are.
room.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Of course.
If you're in the room, there's a reason why you're in the room. You know what I mean?
See,
Now it's up to you to make yourself known in the room. Nobody else has to introduce you.
see, with online, okay, so for some people, and I guess there are quite a few people who can't actually travel, including myself. I'm pretty limited, with a small daughter, things like that. Plus, I'm not in the States. Well, I could, well, there's things in Europe as well, but still, you know. So I meet most people online. And the way I met you, like, well, I saw you first, but I didn't reach out to you straight away. I reached out to Adora
Ah,
because I saw you and I saw you were about connections. And that's what I'm after. Connections, connections. I need to talk about connections, with somebody on this
and it's
podcast.
so funny you said Adora because Adora was the one who brought me to the room with Russell.
See?
So,
There.
so that's what I'm saying. Well, I guess we talked about the physical room.
Yes.
It's not much different in the Zoom room, because when you're in the Zoom room now, most of the rooms that I go into the Zoom room, you're able to put in all your contact information in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now you have their information. Now it's up to you to go make the connection.
Yeah.
Hey, da 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 da. If they have a phone number, make a call, do a text, send an email. I usually send an email first, right? Um,
It's thanks for that tip as well, because this is something I do, like being in the same room on Zoom, like, and I think a lot of people miss this, right? Gives you permission to reach out, because now you have something in common. Oh, we both were in this room, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
Gives you
a
permission to
reference
reach
point.
out, and you have a
Absolutely.
topic to talk about as well.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
connected with quite a few people from there was a program I was in, and that program was all on demand, but the it was trainings from various people. Most of them were high level, quite high level people, and I was as I was it was a summit, a recorded summit with all sorts of people, and I started connecting with them all, and I was telling them I saw you there, I saw you on the summit, you know, and I connected with a whole bunch of them that way, and it
Mhm.
wasn't sleazy. It was, I was
Exactly.
making, I was praising them for, thanking them for a great training they were giving, and, things like that.
Yeah, you're saying something so valuable. I'm using my words specific because that's adding value to the person. Sometimes you think that value has to be this huge thing that, I got to give you money or no. Sometimes just telling somebody that they made a difference in their training,
Mm,
that's value. Yes, we want cash. So now that okay, now you give me value, you gave me the accolade, right? Now add more value by coming into my program and paying me to support you. That's great too. But just the first reach out, just saying, hey, I saw you on whatever summit, I saw you on this podcast, Grace, Grind to Grace. And I wanted to connect with you. I want to let you know this thing that you said really impacted me, and I implemented it, and it worked. Da, 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 da. That's value because
it
now
is.
that person knows that they're on purpose is for real, for real.
Exactly. It's not like you have to value is like going to work for them, or I don't know, whatever people think, right? Imagine creating a training, putting it in a summit, and not hearing and not knowing anything from anyone, whether they even watched you or what. And now you know, you
Now
know.
you know you're making a difference.
Yeah.
Super valuable. Super valuable, you know? And now they not that they need permission, but now they know they're making a difference. They go do it more. They go expand. They go connect with somebody like you, Adita, marketing genius. Hey, this work. Let's do some more. Where we going? What we're doing? you know, it's important, and I don't think that people who are listening to these podcasts, watching the summits, doing the trainings, I don't think they think like that. I don't think they think about how just sending a message to the trainer would impact the life of the trainer. You know, yes, we know we're on purpose, but to hear that you do it, that's like, look at Oprah. Oprah's universal, right? Y'all know about Oprah over there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When Oprah does her most favorite things for the Christmas holidays, right? Have you ever watched how she responds?
I
She
can't.
is like a little kid in a candy store when she's giving away those toys. And you know what's feeding her? The feedback from the people she's giving it to. Because they're so excited. She's like she's getting the gift instead of giving the gift.
Yeah.
Right? Just go back and look at any of those videos and you'll see it. It's the same thing for the trainers and everybody who is bringing information to your life that is we think it's valuable and important. Let us know that you found value. Let us know that you found value. It
Yes.
does, it matters. I know this is
Yes,
off
and
top. It's not
yes.
off topic from connection, by the way. That just actually says yes,
Yeah,
connection
and
happened.
they are humans too. Like
Yeah,
they are all people. It's not
yeah,
like they are some like they have a normal life as
yeah,
well, like all of us,
yeah,
and they've been through struggles, and maybe they are still going through a struggle.
yeah. And the day you send that message just made their day, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And sometimes I had uh, a funny story just recently, maybe a month ago. So
Hmm.
one of the persons of people I was connecting with from it was I think like 2 years ago now at this stage, right? And one day, about a month ago, I thought about him. I was like, he never responded. A few people, many people responded. He never did. And I was like, I guess, I don't know why I thought about him. It was one of those, like, from the universe, whatever. Suddenly I thought about him. And I'm like, and my mom, okay. And it doesn't matter. Like, he didn't go, of course, not everyone is going to connect, respond, whatever. As soon as I had that thought, within a few days,
You showed up.
he showed up and he connected back with me on Facebook. And now I'm in his group, you know,
Wow.
2 years later, right?
Right? Wow.
So you never know. You never know when you plant a seed, when it's gonna start, sprouting. So it's worth doing anyway. It's
We're
worth doing it.
planting the seed.
Yes.
I was just telling somebody yesterday, Adita, that we're all a version of trees. Where did I put that? Oh, we were on the Diva Network call. And I said that. Adora was speaking actually. And I said, yeah, we plant seeds and they gotta sprout, right? There's very few plants on the planet that gives overnight leaves. Yeah, connection is a process. And if you're intentional about it, you just gotta wait for the see the results because it's coming. It's like it's not gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Because it already did. We there's a saying that goes that a seed is in itself,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if a seed is in itself, it already happened. So why not plant seed? Seed of connection, and you nurture the relationship. I'm using all kinds of metaphors here for y'all. Marriage, engagement. Now I'm onto trees. Now I'm onto trees because it's a process. And I think that one of the things that that happens in our space is the idea that it's an overnight success. Most overnight successes in our business, in the coaching space, um, has taken over 10 years.
A
We
lot
just
of
don't
seed
see
planting.
a lot of seed planting. We just don't see what they see is the flowers, right? The bloom, right? The fruit. but the 10 years is 10 years of, shifting and creating the connections, some that didn't work and some that work, and you continue to nurture and all the things. I gotta tell you, vulnerably, I'll tell you this. When I started in real estate, I guess it was natural for me as a connector. I'm a natural connector. So my first year in the business in real estate, rocked it. 25 deals in my first year in the
Wow.
business.
Wow.
Even till today, 25 years, 24 years later, if you ask in America, the average number of deals that a real estate agent does in their first year, it's still probably four. My first year, 24 years ago, I did 25. So there's a reason for that, though, right? Um, I nurtured relationships in a way that caused and created that, right? So even though it was fast, it was still nurturing, right? And some of those relationships I still have today.
And I was gonna ask, are you still reaping?
Mhm. I'm closing a deal. I closed a deal yesterday. That was from I don't even know when, 15 years ago, maybe.
Wow.
Closing a deal tomorrow, same thing. I think I sold her that house 15 years ago.
And I just had this other thought, so many things, tactics, strategies, whatever, expire.
Yeah.
Relationships
Huh?
do not, right? Real relationships don't. And sometimes, yes,
Real ones.
sometimes they go quiet. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
irrelevant. Sometimes you don't see any touch points or what you could do together. But then a few years later, oh, I know this person. you know.
I know, right? That's why you can't. I'm telling you, this is so good. What are we doing on time? Because I know we've been on for a minute. Let me tell you something. What you're saying, we should have said in the beginning. And I hope people get all the way to this part. And I hope you put this part in a reel. Because what you just said is so important. But I like the way you said it. Relationships, some of the relationships expire and some just go dormant,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I'm gonna tell you, the lady who's closing tomorrow, I kept in touch with her, but not every year. But when she was ready, and here's the key. When she was ready, she called me, right? She didn't call anybody else. She only called me. But I'm gonna tell you why, because she told me why she called me. So I'm gonna share this with you. And this is a part of connection. The experience that I gave her when she bought that house 15 years ago never left her. That's connection. Maya Angelou talks about people don't remember what you say. They probably don't even remember what you do. They only remember the way you made them feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great quote and so true.
So
Yeah,
15 years later, she remembered the experience I gave her when she was purchasing. And
yeah,
I know she knows a bunch of realtors. I am clear. And I reached out to her at interims during the 15 years, but not every day, not every month, not all of that. That experience caused her to come back. So think about all the relationships that are there that have gone dormant. How did you make them feel when you were in their
yes.
presence?
And how much did that cost you to have
And
that relationship dormant? Nothing. As
nothing.
opposed to maintaining all the funnels and all the platforms and all the.
So here's the thing then from my last statement. How about you? That's why I said it's the listening, right? It's how I listen. How I show up and how I listen is how I do things, is how people remember me. You got to listen for people. That's something that you got to train yourself to do, because you're so used to taking the information for yourself. Start learning how to listen for people, because that's an experience. They're going to remember, oh man, when Lorna said that, it hit my heart. They're not going to forget that. You're not gonna forget that,
Mm-hmm.
you
And
know? So
you know the way people say, I don't, I sometimes when they quote somebody, I don't know how the exact words they said, but they meant this, blah, blah, blah. They still remember the meaning itself and
the
the
meanest,
feeling associated
yes,
with it.
yes, yes, yes. So if you
Yeah.
want to create deep connections, that's how you roll. You go in and you listen, and just yesterday I reignited a relationship of and the woman the woman made me feel the same way I did uh 2 years ago. But again, it was feedback for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't like the feeling. So I know exactly what's going to happen next, right?
Mm,
So connection is on both sides. It's not one-sided. Again, it's like a marriage. I gave you that analogy of dating all the way through to the marriage, all the way through to nurturing it after the marriage. It's the same concept in business. It's not different. How you do one thing is how you do everything, right? Um, how you make your husband feel. Who was I listening to yesterday? Oh, I was listening to this book that somebody referred to me called um hold on. I'll tell you because it's so good. I didn't finish it yet, but what I heard so far, definitely worth a read. I'm gonna tell you real quick. Um uh oh, Feelings Buried Alive Never Dies. That's the name of the book. Feelings Buried Alive Never Dies. And in I think it was chapter 8, the woman, the author was talking about a woman who thought she was falling out of love with her husband, and then she started asking questions. Why is he annoying me? He annoys me when he eats. He annoys me when he walks. He annoys me everything that the husband was doing was annoying the wife. And she was cognitive enough and aware and conscious enough to realize it wasn't the husband, it was her. So she had to go look at herself to say, well, where do I get to shift? And she went back to the feeling of when they first met and they rekindled the marriage. And
mm,
then now she and him are in unison, they're having fun and all the things because she went back to that feeling
right.
of when they
Makes
just
so
met.
much
So
sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Makes
So anyway,
okay for somebody. Okay, I know that some people they probably have some sort of imposter syndrome or that belief, who am I to reach out to this person or that person or to create relationships?
mm,
What could you say to that?
okay, so a bunch of things on that. But what do I want to say on that? Imposter syndrome is I don't want to negate it by saying it's a myth, but it's really about really what's the purpose of the connection, right? You got to be it's all about intention again, right? And knowing who you are and being confident in who you are, right? That's that alone will like squash imposter syndrome. Who are you being? Who are you? Are you powerful? Are you standing in your power? Do you know what value you add to somebody's conversation? Do you know what power you add to somebody's life? When you know all that, imposter syndrome is not a thing. You may feel nervous going in because it's human nature. You're gonna feel nervous when you go into a new relationship, right? So if you're aware of who you are, then that's the start. Um, Once you're over that, then it's just a matter of, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway. Don't be attached to the outcome,
Mm.
right? If you're not attached to the outcome and you do it,
Mm.
they don't respond. Next, it sounds frivolous, for lack of a better word. But I think that it's something that people need to build that muscle because we've been so programmed about this imposter syndrome thing that we use it as a defense mechanism to say I have imposter syndrome. And really and truly, imposter syndrome is just an indicator of something that you get to look at. You Let me tell you something. Jamaica is gonna come out now. You, the person you are today is not the person you were yesterday. So if you're going to talk about imposter syndrome, you're an imposter today. How about that? Think about it.
Very cool.
Everything that you did yesterday is not everything that you did today in the exact same way.
Right.
So you are an imposter today then, if you're thinking about who you were yesterday. And by the way, yesterday was yesterday. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, very cool. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Right? So if you think about it that way, then that doesn't have any power over you. You just show up as who you be. You show up as who you are with intention. Okay, why do I want to make this connection? What's the purpose of the connection? Is it to add value to the person? Great. Am I expecting them to add value to me? Great. Make sure you understand the outcome that you're after. But at the same time, don't be attached to it. Because that's what causes people, y'all, I'm not talking from theory, speaking from experience. That's the thing that keeps you stuck, is being attached to the outcome. Because if the person says no, oh, they didn't like me, oh, I'm not good enough. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So being really in your power about who you are and what's the intention for the connection, it'll guide you through a little bit smoother.
And
Again, not that you won't feel fear, but you'll you'll
I'd
you'll
like
move through
to,
it faster.
it's so true, so important. Like connect with people for connecting sake. I mean, yes, intention, like you said, but then let it unfold,
Mhm.
right? But I just thought about a different type of potential connection or connect or a different reason to connect, and something that dawned on me as well later on my journey is not necessarily partnering with people, but borrowing, how will I say it? The growth
Credibility.
mindset, the vision, the expansion, being in the room with people who I aspire to, like I look up to surround myself with a certain mindset, right?
Yes, I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Because again, sometimes it's hard for you to envision that person that you want to become. So it's where I spoke from was from the place of power, right? This is still from a place of power. You're in your power, but at the same time, you're using the people who have already um, experienced and created the result that you're looking for,
Yeah.
right? Those are people you want to hang around because now you know what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you can create, or what it doesn't get to look like. Both
Or
sides.
and you borrow conviction from them.
And you borrow their belief. You get what I'm, yes. Borrow their belief. Borrow
Be-
their belief. It's a thing. Borrow the belief.
because for a while, and that happened to me as well, and I see that for many people, that if you are only building your audience from your potential clients, which means they are sort of, in theory, sort of behind,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So means you have no model. You are aligning downwards. You're aligning with these
mm-hmm.
people who are behind. So basically, there is no, how can you grow
Right,
yourself?
right.
So that was
Yeah,
super important for me as
yeah.
well to
And
realize.
again, it's the right people too, right? It's the right growth mindset people too, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're in those rooms, remember, you're in those rooms with people who have already done what you want to do, right? And if you're borrowing belief and you're borrowing credibility and you're borrowing their mindset and you're borrowing all the things, you got to be in a room of givers, right? Because though they're gonna want you to succeed, right? And they're gonna help you to succeed, right? They're not just gonna give you, word of mouth. They're just gonna step in and be like, okay, what do
Mhm.
you need? Right. So
Do you have a tip
it's,
on so for me, I guess one of the ways to be in the room with people like that is being in programs, and
yes.
typically high ticket, typically high
Yep.
level programs, right? With
Yeah.
people who are on a maybe ahead of me, on a
Yeah.
similar journey, after
Yeah.
similar goals, but ahead of me, you know.
Yeah. You either, it's two ways that I can see. There may be more, but I only know two. And
Mhm,
you just mentioned them. One, you buy your way in, you buy your way
mhm.
into the room. Or two, you create that relationship that's gonna get you in the room.
Right, right.
That's the only two ways I know. If y'all know more, y'all could just reach out.
Yeah, yeah.
But those are the two ways. You gotta buy yourself in the room. So you gotta be willing to invest in yourself, right? Because when you invest in yourself, then you have skin in the game, and the people who you're going into the room with, they'll be like, well, okay, she has skin in the game. That means she's serious. That means she's on her way. She has that mindset that investing in yourself is one of the best things you can do for yourself. You know, I remember, and what came up for me to share. I remember when I invested in $100,000 mastermind. I remember the woman said I had to put down $10,000. I put down the $10,000 and I went back to the hotel and I almost had a heart attack. You hear me? I'll never forget that. But I had to invest in myself or I would not be sitting in front of you right here today. It's that
Right.
simple, right? But I remember a visceral response to the fact that I invested in $100,000 mastermind. I had no idea how I was going to pay this morning. None.
And I know, geez, I know, I know that, but I guess the other point is, right, when you invest in programs like that, in rooms like that, it's not only about the tangible result that they're promising, but it's all, especially the higher the program, the more of other opportunities there are, like
Mhm.
connections, any other opportunities that come out, the level of growth, the transformation that you get, which
Yeah,
people don't realize.
no. And I'll say this as well because it's valuable. Um, that, and speaking of that hundred, and this is, and I don't call it failure. I call it a learning lesson. Back then, I didn't understand this process. I was just getting into this space, and I did not take advantage the space I was in of
Mm,
the connections that I had access to. So I really wanted to presence that because when you invest the money into these rooms, be clear. Be clear. Remember, I said to you before, when I go into these rooms nowadays, I go with intention. Be
mm,
clear about your intention when you're going
mhm.
into these rooms. Because if you're not clear, you can walk into the room and walk out without anything.
I
And
so
then
agree.
then yeah, right? Because then after that, no, you're gonna beat yourself up, you're not gonna want to invest again. And it's a continuum. It's not a one and done, right? So just be mindful of that. This is where I'm saying I'm collapsing time for you with these conversations because I went through it. I learned some stuff from it, and I'm sharing it with you. Do not go into the room without intention because you will
Mm.
not come out with what you wanted, and
I
and
mean,
and you won't stay in touch with the people either. So that's
I
that's
mean,
the other
I
part.
I have so many connections just because of the programs I've been in, but also what the other thing I remembered is be a good freaking student.
Yep,
Because more than once and more than twice, I was noticed and I created and I benefited from be creating a good relationship with the person
trainer.
running the program,
Hmm.
which is even
Higher level.
higher, right?
Hmm.
Oh my God. And I didn't even do it intentionally. That was not even my intention. I didn't understand. It just happened because, when I do the thing, I do the thing, I do the thing, I'm all in. I normally do it. Apparently there aren't that many people like that, right? So
No,
it was, for me, it was
not at
normal.
all.
Okay, I do it, I commit to it, I do it. So, and I'm just realizing now, I'm on a team, on a top tier team right now, top tier marketing team right now, because I was a good student, and then they invited me to be on their team.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
That's a whole nother podcast though. Seriously.
yeah,
To
yeah,
how to do that because that's missing as well.
yeah, very cool.
Because so many people um they go into programs and they don't complete.
Yeah, yes. Listen, that was super cool. I'm looking at the clock. It
I know.
always flies too fast. Always. Anyway, it was super cool, and I'm so grateful you were here with me. And I don't know if you're aware, but I ask my guests three blitz questions, very quick, simple, easy questions.
Dude, you asked me a whole bunch of questions
But I have
already.
this special set of three questions.
Uh,
But before that, if you can just tell the one listening, what you do and where they can find you.
so you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn. Just type in Lorna Sherland. And the easiest way to find me is just to go on my website, lornasherland.com. From there, you can get to everything else. You'll see my events. I have a masterclass coming up at the end of the month. I don't know if that's valuable for you, but if you want to continue these conversations and go deeper, you just got to come into my space and we go deep, deep, deep into a lot of the things that we've talked about here today. Um, and what else do you ask me? Where do
Where they can find you. So how you help them, how you work with
So
people.
I am a business strategist. I am a transformational leadership coach. So all the things that I talk about here is not just theory, it's practicality. We have processes that we walk you through to get you from where you are to where you want to go. We lead with you starting with your vision. A lot of people that I've experienced, when I ask them, even though they've been in business for 30, 40, 50 years, what is your vision for your life? They have no clue because nobody has ever asked them that question before. And this is what they say. This is not what I'm saying. This is what they tell me. So I really work with women who are already successful, but they feel stuck at where they're at and they have no idea how to create the next level. And as I
Mhm.
said before, the who you have been up until now, it doesn't get to be the same person who creates the next level. So I support women to bridge that gap so that they can create more income and more impact. So
Beautiful.
meet me
I
on my
so agree
website.
with the vision point, with the
Yeah.
I look at it from marketing point of view, and people
Mhm.
don't know why they're marketing what they're marketing,
Uh-uh.
and guess how much
Uh-uh.
more difficult that is because of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So I tell people I collapse that time for them. You hear me talk about
Yeah,
collapsing time all the time? That's what I do in a nutshell. I collapse time.
yeah, very cool. Okay, the questions. So the first one is, what change would you like to see in the world?
That's such a good question. Um, and it's my mission, right? My mission as I shift in my own consciousness, not just of who I am, but of why we're here. I would love to see a mass shift in consciousness, which is why connection and collaboration is so important, right? I alluded to it in the conversation earlier, right? When I said collaboration just create not only creates expansion for personal benefit, it's actually raising consciousness. So
Mm.
when somebody shares community, when somebody with 100,000 people on their email list shares a conversation with somebody else who has a 10,000 people on their email list, even though it's 10,000 and 100,000, consciousness still raises, right? Because everybody's going to be on the same wavelength, the same frequency. So that's what I would love to see.
Love that so much. Love that. That's one of my favorite topics. Okay, the next one is what, and I guess you kind of answered, but if maybe you want to add something, what legacy would you personally like to leave?
What legacy would I personally like to leave?
So
Well,
probably,
first of all, let me just say this because it actually came up to me, I think it was last week. Um, because I was talking to a woman who is actually living her legacy, and that's what I would love to do is start living my legacy. And my legacy is to see the consciousness shift while I'm here and
uh-huh.
it to continue while I'm gone. So that's why I want to coach women to shift into who they are actually came here to be. Because I know that when I accomplish that, shifting their way of being, shifting their presence to authenticity, they're gonna lead from that place and they're gonna shift other people, right? So if I can accomplish that now and see that ripple now, that would be amazing. And then when I'm gone, as they leave, I leave, they leave, other people, other women are going to be here and still doing that. And that's a continuum. That's legacy. But how about living it while you're here? Right?
Mm.
How about having that fulfillment while you're here? So it actually fuels you, you know? So that's what I teach in my program. It's a new thing for me to think this way, but I think it's so powerful. Like Oprah, Oprah is living her legacy. She is. She might not say it, but she is.
I think,
Because
right? I think we need to help more women to achieve that. That's the
absolutely,
ultimate mission.
absolutely.
Mm.
But experience it so you know how you say die empty? I want to die empty,
Mm.
right? Because then I gave everything that I had. Whatever came into me, gave it away so I could leave.
Oh, I love that. Okay, the third one is the
Yeah.
simplest. When you hear from grind to grace, what goes through your mind?
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Because when I hear grind, I hear um, I hear toil. I know that's not why we're here. I know that it gets to be simple. I don't think it gets to be easy anymore. I think it gets to be simple, right? And then the grace that you have is the ups and downs that come along with life, period, right? Life is not a straight line. Frequency is up and down. That's life. It follows the same pattern, right? So if you can have grace with yourself, you find the peace in the storm, right?
Yeah.
And then you live, you know, you live with more calm. You live with more, um, yeah, just more calm.
And you reap more. You reap more that way,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, Lorna, for
Welcome. Thank
sharing
you for having me.
sharing your
This was fun.
wisdom. And then, yeah, for the one listening, I mean, if I need to repeat that how important connections are, I don't know. I think I can bang my head
Bang it on.
at the wall, repeating that
Yeah.
because I think it's one of the fundamental things for growing your business a lot and
Yeah.
faster, way faster and easier and with more expansion. So, if so, first of all, thanks for listening. And also, if you got value, I'm sure you did. Why wouldn't you? Share, follow.
We should hope that they did. Yeah. That
Yeah,
was the intention. Yeah.
we need this to spread.
Yeah.
We need
So
this to
share it.
spread.
Yes. Share
Yeah.
this.
Okay, thank you again, and I'll talk to you next week again.